Welcome to Club Soda's Mindful Drinking Festival. We're online, global, and as always, absolutely free. Hi, I'm Drew, and I'm one of the co-founders of Club Soda.
And I'm Laura, the other co-founder of Club Soda. We help you change your drinking in ways that help you live well. So whether you're looking to cut down, stop for a bit, or quit, you can find what you need from podcasts and books and courses on joinclubsoda.com. This festival, we've brought you an amazing lineup from over 100 people from across the world.
And our programme this time really is global.
Every day starts down under with me, Sarah. As well as organising the festival in Australia, I spend my time looking for alcohol-free alternatives and tips for people who choose not to drink, but who still want to live a social, fun and adventurous life.
And I'll be wrapping up each day here in the States. I'm Amanda, your US festival host and coordinator, and I'm also a mindset coach who helps women change their relationship with alcohol so that they can start living their most authentic life.
Each day with a rolling programme of inspirational panels, conversations, social events, and opportunities to discover new low and low alcohol drinks.
So whether you want inspiration to change your drinking,
Or to connect with other people,
or you want to discover and enjoy a new low and no alcohol drink,
The Mindful Drinking Festival is for you.
cheers!
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 cheers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Getting Started as a Mindful Drinker. My name is Laura Silverman. I'm so excited to be here. I'm the founder of the Sobriety Collective and Booze Free in DC. So I'm in the Washington, DC area. And I'm co-founder of Zero Proof Nation, along with Chris Marshall of Sands Bar, where we bring to you a lineup of some of the best zero proof beverages around the world, along with the stories behind them and other amazing people in the space and their favorite beverages. I've been a booze-free babe for the past 13 years, and I'm so stoked to be here with all of you. And it's my honor to introduce this amazing panel of experts on the alcohol-free lifestyle. So in no particular order, I'm going to start with Heather Lowe of Ditch the Drink. Heather ditched the drink in February 2018 after a long journey in Pinot purgatory. Being not that bad kept her from being her best for too long, and she now lives her best life alcohol-free and helps others do the same. Next, we have Kevin Bellack, who you may know as Sober Ginger on Instagram. He's an alcohol-free accountant out of Cleveland, Ohio, and co-host on the 1,000 Hours Dry Instagram. He uses his platform to open up about his past and current struggles and to help and encourage others to do the same. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have Karolina Rzadkowolska. I think I did it right this time, of Euphoric AF, which is Euphoric Alcohol Free. And she is an alcohol-free life coach behind Euphoric Alcohol Free and works with otherwise healthy women who want to transform their relationships with alcohol to unlock another level of potential in their lives. She hosts an award-winning podcast called Euphoric, the podcast, on how much health, happiness, and productivity is found in a life without hangovers and the tips you need to ditch booze or take a break. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited that you're here. And before I dive in with all of you, whomever is watching, please feel free to type in your questions or comments, and we'd be so happy to address them in our conversation. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here, Heather, Kevin, and Karolina.
Thank you. So
Thanks,
excited
Laura.
to be here.
Yeah, you're quiet in here already.
Right. So I wanted to just get started and, I'll just do this popcorn style, but what does mindful drinking mean to you? And how did you get started in your own journey as someone who's alcohol free? And I'm going to just start with Karolina.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think my journey was one of awareness, and there were so many years that went by where I was getting more and more attuned to the way I wanted to show up in the world and the way that it seemed that alcohol was that limiting factor that wasn't making me show up that way. And, I was already a healthy person. I maybe drank a lot when I was in my college years and partying, but by the time I was 30 years old, I went to the yoga classes, I was drinking the green juice. I wanted to be a respectable, healthy adult. And the drinking I was doing both socially and on the weekend was like the stopper on the momentum of all these health and life goals. And I felt like waking up every single Monday morning entirely stuck. And I felt not only stuck because of the drinking, but also like, well, wasn't this what normal adults do? You know, like, how come I can't figure this out? How come I can't make this work? And it took literally years of waking up on those Monday mornings, hearing this inner voice that was telling me, Karolina, you are made for more. You are made for more than this. Yeah. And without having to label myself, without having to make this a black or white thing, I just decided to listen to that voice. I decided to listen to that voice of intuition and just say, well, what would it look like if I just tried a different lifestyle on for size? Like, what if I just took a break? And I did try in January of 2018. And honestly, my world exploded from that moment on. And it wasn't the end of my journey by any means, but I fell in love with a new way of being. I fell in love with early mornings. I fell in love with naturally laughing with my niece while we played games. I fell in love with even learning how to be comfortable in my own skin without needing alcohol as a crutch to feel more sociable or confident when I was with my friends. I fell in love with nature. I fell in love with so many new ways of being. And, you know, it was just this awakening really into another lifestyle that I never gave myself the chance to fully experience before, that if I could gift anyone, I really would.
That's so amazing and so wonderful that you were able to ditch the drink, which leads me into Heather. I would love to ask you to share with everyone how you came to be alcohol-free and what does being mindful mean to you?
Thank you, Laura. Cheers, everyone, for being here. Having a happy refresher, and it's like, feels like the weekend is almost here, and here we get to party at this Global Mindful Festival. I've been waiting all day to get to this point, so I'm like super excited. Your question is interesting, and as Karolina was talking, I was just like, oh God, am I going to be next? What would I say? Because the truth is, I didn't set out on a path to be a mindful drinker at all. I no longer drink because I had a failure to moderate. I tried my whole life, I think, since my first sip of beer in middle school, I dare say. Like, I loved it. And I was a drinker and I was a party girl. And then I was a wine mom. And it got worse and worse and worse. When I started to be in jobs that didn't fit, and there were some deaths in my life that were unexpected, it became the way I self-medicated myself and self-soothed myself. And something that used to be just a party social thing was now something I was administering every night on the couch by myself with my wine. And it was stopping me from being social with my friends. I couldn't have fun without it. Kind of. So it was an awakening that something has to change, that this isn't working. I was starting to disappoint myself and my family. And so I did a 100-day challenge of being alcohol free. And I made it to 70 days. And that was the best failure in my entire life because it planted a seed in those 70 days of like, I felt better and I didn't need alcohol. And I could see the grip that it had on me. And I wanted to be free from that. So I started feeling better. My confidence grew mostly is what happened. And so the goal for me and all these sober experiments that I did then over 3 years, back and forth, sober experiment drinking was to try to moderate, to try to figure out the right amount to drink. How many glasses, how many days a week? Just this drink, just that drink, whatever. And I feel really at it. So about 2.5 years ago, I gave it up for good. It felt like a sad day to give it up. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. I couldn't do this. I didn't do it right. I wasn't a good drinker. I wasn't a normal drinker. And now looking back, what a blessing. Because I don't drink at all. And it takes up no headspace. And I'm finally, like Karolina said, awakened to live the life of my dreams. So
that's so wonderful. Thank you, Heather.
I'm a drinker by accident because I had a failure to moderate.
Yeah, well, it happens to a lot of us. On that note, Kevin, I would love to know a little bit more about your story, how you got to become alcohol-free.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Well, as you said, I'm an alcohol-free accountant, which is a bit of an oxymoron, I think. If people don't know, accounting is very deadline-driven and, busy season and a lot of work. So that lends itself to a lot of happy hours and a lot of parties at the end of busy seasons. And so I was a big binge drinker, college and all through my 20s, into my 30s. That was the main way I drank. And then as without getting too much into my backstory, like I slowly morphed into a stress emotional drinker. And with more stress at work, more drinking occurred, and it kind of just, got out of control for me, and my health, started to decline. And I was like, okay, I need to stop this and do something. But, like Heather said, all the little challenges I tried, the sober Octobers and all that, just failed. Like I made 4 days and then stopped. And, so it got to the point in January of 2019 where I just got to the end of my rope, but I was like, enough's enough. I have to change something. And what I did was I ended up using like therapy to, I saw a therapist. That's what started the ball rolling for me. And even then I was like, okay, well, but I'm not going to give up alcohol forever, right? Mm-hmm. Like I couldn't, I can moderate eventually. She's going to teach me how to drink responsibly. Mm-hmm. And, so I made it 60 days. I didn't quite make it the 70 that you did, but I made it 60. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try moderation. And then I spent, a month and a half of moderation, and that was kind of hellish. So we got back from a vacation, and that was 15 months ago that I stopped drinking. And even when I stopped at that point, I didn't think it was going to be a forever thing. I thought it was very much going to be, I'm like, okay, let's try 61 days and see what happens. I didn't think I was going to make it a week at that point. Mm. But so I made it 61 days, then I made it 90, and then I just kept pushing it forward. And 15 months later, I'm feeling much better than I ever have, and glad I made that decision. So
that's so phenomenal. It's so amazing hearing these stories. And we'll talk a little bit about, do you need to quit or can you moderate? And moderation is possible for a lot of people, and it's not possible for just as many people. So it's really an individualized decision, but it's just hearing all of you talk reminded me of, I'm a huge mental health advocate myself. And after my second hospitalization for alcohol poisoning in the course of a year and a half, I'd only just turned 24. I decided I needed help. I knew very much that alcohol had become a problem in my life after only 6 years of drinking, but I knew that I didn't want to quit forever. And I also, I couldn't live without it, and I couldn't live with it. And so I just remember, I went to do an intensive outpatient program, and I was able to fit that in with my first job out of college. And we had to get breathalyzed every single session. But I remember after that first month of waking up without a hangover, not having the crutch of alcohol, it just started to feel really, really good. And so I also kept pushing it forward a little bit more, not thinking that it was going to be a forever thing. And who knows what forever is? I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. So life is just very unexpected. But what I do know is that I feel so much better when I can be aware of my life. And I think that awareness is really what mindfulness is. I wanted to read a quote to you, and then wanted to get your input and what you guys think of this. But this new beverage that is featured in the Mindful Drinking Festival, I think they're out of the UK or Australia. They're called Function Brewing, but FUNGTN. So I think fung might be mushroom related. They might have adaptogens from mushrooms, but they posted this really amazing post today about what does mindful drinking mean to you? Does it mean drinking less, only on special occasions, maybe no alcohol at all, or just no sugar or fewer calories? And the next part of this is that they say mindfulness is a word that gets splashed about, but in reality is different for everyone. Just like our decisions to not drink, to drink a little bit, whatever. It's simply about becoming a conscious consumer. And that's where that awareness that we'll talk about comes into play, and listening to our bodies and our hearts when taking on any task. Mindful drinking is creating an exciting new world where people can start to look at drinking and socializing in a new way, and make choices based on flavor and functionality rather than on the have or have nots of alcohol by volume, which I think is so phenomenal. So massive props to Function Brewing. I need to try it's 0.5% alcohol free or 0.5% NA beer. Yeah. So what do we think about mindfulness and just the topic of our panel tonight is getting started as a mindful drinker. So Karolina, I wanted to start with you. What are your thoughts on mindfulness as it relates to drinking?
Yeah, I love that quote because it really is about our consciousness, our elevated consciousness. And it's always a journey, like an evolution to more and more awareness. And the thing is that alcohol is something that we're conditioned to do. You know, most of us pick it up when we're teenagers. This is not something that, you know, we consciously choose. It's something that's conditioned on us to become cool and confident and all of these attributes that we want at a time where we're so insecure, you know, and it's sold to us. It's sold to us as a form of relaxation and desirability and fun and adventure, all this stuff. It's mass conditioning happening, you know, and then you have the actual properties of alcohol, which make it scientifically, you know, like a habit loop in your brain. And so when we're talking about consciousness, it's like most people with their drinking relationship are very much on autopilot, and they're doing it out of habit, out of routine, out of social norms, cultural norms, out of, well, everybody drinks at this party, so I have to drink at this party, right? There's no consciousness around it until now we're having these conversations to really ask yourself, you know, for so long, these questions were about, well, do I have a problem? Because if I have a problem, then I shouldn't drink. Well, what about the other like elephant in the room? Is drinking actually making you happy? Does it make you happy? Does it allow you to fulfill your greatest life goals? Is it allowing you to play big? Is it allowing you to feel fully alive? Does it let you hear your intuition and feel passion and purpose? Because I feel all those things only until I took a break from alcohol, only until I took away this numbing agent that's really much a toxin in your body that, you know, your body has to work so much overtime to detoxify, and it clouds up your, you know, feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And it was only when I got space from that I could really feel the natural state of being alive and feeling that intuition calling me to a greater drive and motivation. And I could honestly say, you know, step by step, baby step by baby step, I'm living the life of my dreams today. And I was completely aimless a few years ago, having no idea what I wanted to do with my life. You know, and today I'm publishing a book that's going to be out in 2022. I have the dream business. I work with like my dream clients. I travel around the world, you know, like none of that was even, I didn't even think was possible for me. I didn't believe in myself enough because I had such low self-esteem from a drinking habit, because you always let yourself down, you know, when you tell yourself you only want 2 and then you have the 3rd one or the 4th one, or you don't go work out that night because you had drinks. It's constantly lowering your self-esteem. Yeah. But when you take a break, you redevelop those positive beliefs about yourself because you keep putting one foot in front of the other and literally like walking a path you've never walked before. And when you start, you know, maybe you get 7 days and you've never had a weekend without booze and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, like that's a huge feat. You should be really proud of that. And then you get 15 or 21 or 30 or 60. All of this is adding to your pride and confidence. And you start to ask yourself, if I can do this, and I never thought I could do this, like what else could I do? Could I go for that promotion in my job? Could I actually quit my job and go for my business I've always wanted to launch? Could I write a book? Could I run a marathon? Could I make new friends all over the world? It really propels you out of your comfort zone and into the land of wild fulfillment. And, you know, to me, that's what awareness is about, what mindfulness is about, because we could live our lives on autopilot, going with the status quo and mediocrity and falling into our habits and cultural norms and just doing like, you know, routine as normal. Or we could ask ourselves, what do I really want out of my life? And then start taking the steps towards that, even if it means disrupting the habits and if it means becoming more aware and taking a break from alcohol or committing to a certain time to be able to have a life that is wildly fulfilling.
Amazing. Karolina for president, everyone. But speaking of autopilot, here we are in the middle of a pandemic. It's already become pretty routine for us to just be on these, you know, video calls all the time. I wanted to ask you, Heather, what would your advice be for someone who is looking to maybe take a break or shake themselves out of that autopilot feeling?
Yeah. So first of all, I think questioning it is very, very brave. I give anyone credit who has the courage to question if their habits are maybe not serving them. Alcohol creates dependence in your brain. That's what the drug does. That's not you. That's alcohol. So I think it's incredibly brave, and I welcome with open arms anybody who's willing to question that, because change is really hard and we grip to what we know. I mean, I think that's the big why it makes this so hard is we maybe don't think alcohol is serving us, but we don't want to change our jobs or our friendships or our marriage or our life because we don't know anything different, even when our life is not working for us, you know? So it's really, really brave to do it. So high five. Next, ask for help. All my clients they're like me. They're like perfectionists, and they have it all together, and they're super high functioning, and they're type A, and they do it all, you know? So asking for help, people think they have to do this on their own. And I think reaching out for help is the second bravest thing you can do after you've admitted to yourself that maybe this isn't working. Elton John just celebrated 30 years of sobriety yesterday, and he said he was so grateful he took that big step to reach out for help 30 years ago, or he'd be dead. So, like, that's Elton John, you know? He had to ask for help. So it's okay to ask for help. And it doesn't have to look like the traditional programs that you know of. I mean, for Kevin, it was therapy. For me, it was nothing. I immersed myself in podcasts, books. I became a student of my own problem, and I had a friend that quit with me. And so that was huge. You know, Karolina had her own path. Laura, you had intensive outpatient treatment. So to each their own. There's plenty of ways to go about it. But I would recommend, yes, admitting and patting yourself on the back, and then reaching out for some help. And then questioning your beliefs. Like Karolina said, we say that alcohol is fun, but really looking, is it? You blacked out. Was that fun? You don't remember half that night. Or for me, I disappointed my family and friends. That isn't fun. Being hungover, I mean, it's unanimous that we can all say being hungover is not fun ever. And it's not relaxing. It increases your anxiety. It increases your depression. Being depressed isn't fun. Like, so question that. Is it relaxing? Like, in the first 20 minutes, it probably is. And then it's probably, if you're like me, in a mind loop of, can I have more? How much should I have? Why is everyone acting like I drink too much? I haven't. I need more. Is there enough? We have to get more, whatever it is. So it's not really relaxing. It takes up a lot of headspace. So I would say, like, be open to change, and change is not bad. If your life is not working for you right now, it's okay to make some changes. Changes will be, you can welcome that, and nothing's going to happen that you're the driver. You know, relationships will change. You'll want them to change once you start to change.
Yeah, that's all about growing up in your decision to change something, whether or not that means quitting forever or for a month or for a year.
Laura, I haven't quit forever. I just want to say that. I don't think many of us can handle that, and it doesn't matter. Yeah. All of us are just, I would say, I drink as much as I want, whenever I want, and I still do that. I mean, I just changed what my drink is. You know,
I was like, did I miss something, Heather? Yes, exactly. Hey, I always joke that I had a drinking problem because I'm always thirsty. Like, I can never have enough to drink. But that we have a really interesting question in the chat, and there are lots of questions that are coming up, so we'll get to them sort of as we go. But I wanted to ask that to Kevin. One of the questions is, how do you tell your hard partying friends that you're reassessing your relationship with alcohol? Did you have hard partying accountant friends?
I did have hard partying accountant friends. I was a hard partying accountant friend, but it's a little different for me from the standpoint of, by the time I got to, I'm 40 now. You know, if this was 10 years ago or whatever, this would be a whole different conversation. And I would probably say that, your best bet probably is to take a break for a little bit. And just because it's going to be hard to be, it depends on the maturity level, I guess I'm saying. Like, my brother is 10 years older than me, or my friends are all my age. They don't care at this point. Like, they're not sitting there to tell, oh, come on, drink and stuff like that. So if you have that that's going to be tough. And you kind of need to pick your battles. And one good thing to do is, if you're somewhere and that's happening and you're uncomfortable, you can always just take off, leave. And that's the easiest thing to do. But I think setting boundaries and telling people about it is one way. Hopefully, they're mature enough to respect your decision and help you out with it. And also, my biggest tip is, get a Yeti and just drink out of this because nobody notices. But it's kind of a case by case situation, really, and you kind of just have to assess it as you go and make the best decisions on who you're going with. For sure. And we'll make some space, a little bit of room before we leave tonight on talking about some of our favorite zero proof beverages, because I am just obsessed with all of them. And I have a bar cart now. It's really exciting. I have a home bar. But Karolina, I wanted to ask you another question from the chat. But before I get there, I'm going to take a quick stab at answering that question from the chat about how to tell your hard-partying friends. Because I was 24 when I got sober, and I had only just turned 24 a couple months before. So everybody was still partying pretty hard. Granted, I might have been the hardest partying of them all. And I was wondering how people were like having their lives, quote unquote, together. And I couldn't. Well, what I found for me was that as I was reassessing my relationship with alcohol, and for me, that reassessment meant I had to abstain from it. And again, I wasn't planning on, quote unquote, forever. What is forever anyway? But it was going to be for long enough that I could figure out my life, whatever that meant. I'm still working on it. But what I had to do was get rid of toxic relationships. And maybe to some people, I was the toxic friend. But to me, that there were a lot of toxic people in my life that I couldn't have around anymore. So I had to establish some boundaries. Kevin said a really great thing, and that's have an exit strategy. If you're not comfortable somewhere, you can leave. It's okay. Have a drink in your hand if you're comfortable socializing. And if anyone gives you grief about whether there's alcohol in your cup or not, that usually means that you're putting a mirror up to them, and they're uncomfortable with something that's going on inside of their own process. So most people won't really care. And then the people who really do care in the best way possible will be your biggest supporters. So you'll have people who care a lot because they might have been your drinking buddies, and you'll have people who care a lot because they support you. At the end of the day, it's just be your own scientist and see what works for you. We love Ruby Warrington here. She just had a talk earlier today, and obviously she's the author of Sober Curious. Just be curious with your journey. So that's I'm not a panelist here, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express once. Also not true. So Karolina, question from the chat, a really vulnerable comment, which leads into a question, but this person says that they've had 9.5 years sober, and after their mother's death in 2017, they had a hard time sustaining sobriety. They just got 75 days, but it's been more of a struggle and not a feeling of freedom. And because your whole thing is being euphoric, alcohol-free, do you have any suggestions for this person on how to get as enthusiastic as they once were?
Yes, absolutely. And, my condolences, because, it's sometimes we get the most pink cloud experience and it's incredible. But a lot of times, alcohol, we have false beliefs around it, right? We believe that it relaxes us. We believe that it makes things more fun, us more sociable. It helps us sleep, all these things. And when you hold all those beliefs under scrutiny, they start to fall away, just like Heather said. Is it really fun to wake up with a hangover? Is it really fun to feel like, where's my next drink? What did I say? That's not relaxing, right? But the one thing that alcohol for sure does is it numbs. It used to be used as an anesthetic back in the day for surgeries. It numbs, and it not only numbs your physical body, it numbs your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And so many of us, especially during pandemic right now, we're not out socializing. Drinking has come home, and drinking is the coping mechanism. And when you're numbing the emotional, inner life that you're going through, in a way, you can't ever process it. And so what happens is these problems become almost like there's this analogy, I didn't make it up, Debbie Ford did, where we have these beach balls and we're trying to stuff them down underwater, and we're stuffing them down. And maybe we have the energy for it, but we get older and older, and those beach balls are so hard to keep underwater, and we're trying to tread the water, and it's hard. And imagine instead releasing them and processing those emotions. And so I've heard from many stories that, people who've gone through grief felt like they never actually experienced and processed the grief until they removed the alcohol out of the equation to be able to truly heal, to step in and lean into all those hard emotions and like let it all out. And then at the other side of it, find relief. And so I know so many people who do take a break, and it's like, it's not all euphoric, right? Because those emotions and thoughts and feelings come back, and really being able to, understand that every single time I experience my emotions without numbing or distracting, I'm getting more resilient. I'm getting stronger. This challenge is building something in me, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm meant to help the woman behind me. Maybe I'm meant to help other people go through this very same thing. Maybe I'm supposed to be a role model. Maybe I'm supposed to speak about this. You never know why we have our challenges, but there's this famous Tony Robbins saying that life happens for us, not to us. And it might be hard to find the meaning in the hard, but it grows you. If you never had any challenges, if life was easy peasy, you would never grow, right? And growth is one of the greatest human needs that we ever have. And so being able to see a challenge, where, it's kind of hard now, to being able to see the gifts in that. And, I just in a practical level, I would recommend a gratitude practice every single morning. Get out your journal and write 10 things that you're grateful for, either through experiencing alcohol-free living again, or, any kind of blessing in your life. Really focus on that. Have a meditation practice around gratitude, do things that delight you every day, whether that's buying flowers or sitting on the patio with a cup of tea, really imbue your life with more like good feeling. And another one I just heard is like, our feelings are like stuck in our emotions, are stuck in our body. And when you move your body, when you like smile and you stand up straight and you put on a song, like your favorite happy song, and you dance it out, like it's almost impossible to feel sad after that. Like we hold all this stuff in, and we're supposed to release it. We're supposed to process, so these are some little just practical tips, the gratitude practice, doing things that delight you every single day, and moving your body to change your emotions will be so key. And dancing it out is one of my favorites. And even though I feel like a total dork sometimes, like it's so fun to be able to feel alive again and actually feel my emotions, whether they're the really good ones and the fulfilling ones or some of the bad ones, because I know even the bad ones are making me more capable and more resilient and more, again, capable to maybe help the woman behind me.
Yeah. I absolutely love what you say about having a gratitude practice. And that is a true mindfulness practice in and of itself, and moving the body too, which is kind of talking about mindfulness and talking about what's going on with the pandemic. It's just this perfect marriage of what can you do to shake up the autopilot and to feel good in your own bodies and minds. And I've definitely been exercising almost every day. I feel so much better. Kevin, what is a mindfulness practice that you use that's helpful in your life?
Well, I was going to kind of add on to what we were just talking about, because journaling has definitely been one of my biggest tools. It wasn't so much gratitude, but the user said 75 days. About last year, I was probably around 90 days when I was still struggling. And I think I was reading This Naked Mind, and, I read the part about, get curious about your, what you're going through. And that's kind of what I started doing. And I started, okay, I'm really stressed out. I'm studying, I'm working, I'm doing all this stuff. And I want to drink, like I'm stressed. And, so then I started writing, and, I would start, and 20 minutes later I had written a ton of words, just because it just all comes out, like, and it kind of just relieved all the stress and just got it out of my head and gave me some space to relax. And that's been one of my biggest things. Exercise has been too, but more so the repetition, like the daily exercise, just kind of helps keep me calm. I don't do it like, oh, I want to drink and I'm going to go exercise. Like, I can't do that. I'm like, I want to drink, I'm going to go watch Netflix. Like, that's more me. But I think doing the exercise, like on a more consistent basis, kind of builds it for me and helps.
Yeah, whatever kind of exercise it is, whether it's actually physical exercise or not, just creating a habit. And they say, what is it, Heather, that it takes about 21 days to build a new habit? What are some of your tips and tricks, mindfulness or gratitude or moving?
Sure. First of all, thank you for the person that's written in and shared the story. 75 days is awesome. Congrats. Grief is really, really complicated, and I've dealt with it a lot, and I'm still dealing with it. And I think just one suggestion is one, a book called It's Okay to Not Be Okay was kind of helpful to me. And accepting yourself where you're at. You don't have to be enthusiastic about sobriety every day. You're missing your mom, and that's okay. Accepting that, not stuffing that ball down, like Karolina said, and just allowing yourself to feel that, I think is number one. And radical self-compassion to get yourself through that. You're always going to miss her. So how you're going to carry on with that, feeling of grief. So my heart goes out to you. I think we expect that we're going to be sober and happy. And to be honest, sometimes I'm sober and a total bitch. So that's okay. That's okay. And my clients too, sometimes in the first 30 days, they're twitchy, they're irritable, they're annoyed. Things, that's how it can feel in your first 30 days, your first 75, your first year, maybe, but I mean, eventually, I have felt the pink cloud and it continues to be there, but there's a lot of things that are a practice. So keep practicing. My practices are very similar to what everyone said. Journaling is huge. I love to write. It's very therapeutic for me. And if you want to use journal prompts, you can do that. If you just want to write F you to everybody in your life for 20 minutes, you can do that. You can do that too. Anger definitely comes up, which can be a complicated emotion. It doesn't have to be a log of your life. Julia Cameron has something called morning pages, which is just to get out all the negative before you start your day. So there's a lot of different options. I have a Pinterest board if you want to look. There's tons of prompts.
Share that with us later. So maybe I can post that on my Instagram stories. So follow @WeAreSober and all of us so that if you don't get your questions answered right now, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or via our websites so that we can continue the conversation. So because this is the Mindful Drinking Festival, I definitely want to give some space to talk about beverages that we enjoy. But I am seeing a question that I skipped. And so let's just give maybe 2 minutes to that. And yes, someone just mentioned the Artist's Way. I have that. Have I opened it up? No, but I'm going to. Someone asked, could you address the concept of sobriety for sobriety's sake? I'm not exactly sure I totally get the question. Does anyone here just like being sober or being a sober curious person? I'm not sure if I completely understand it. Does anyone here want to take a stab at it?
I think it's a little bit, Laura, like what Heather was saying, about how she feels about what she drinks or not. She said, I drink as much as I want, whenever I want. I just happen to not want ethanol anymore, right? Yeah. And it really is the goal. Like for so long, the paradigm has been behavior change, like don't drink. And the old fashioned kind of paradigms where the goal was sobriety, right? And I think what we're coming to realize is the goal, that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to have freedom, to have mental freedom and to live a life on your terms, right? And that could mean something different for everybody, but to live a life on your terms means living a life that you find fulfilling. And, there's so many reasons why we fall into relationships with alcohol, from conditioning, from the way that alcohol forms habit loops in our brains. There's so much that goes on, but it also lets you put a big giant snooze button on your life, right? When you're usually drinking, you're on autopilot. You're just doing the status quo, doing the motions. And so because of that, this might be like a wake-up call to actually like shift your life in ways that you would find more fulfilling for you. And it could be the littlest baby steps. Maybe it's signing up for your first 5K. Maybe it's going up to a meetup, for the first time and meeting some people in real life. Maybe it's going to a professional development seminar. I don't know what it is, but the goal here isn't necessarily the behavior change. It's the mental freedom to live life on your terms. And when you discover that, when you find a life that you're no longer looking to escape from, or to press that snooze button on, or to turn off from for a while, you know, it becomes so much easier to live in the space of, you know, enjoying your life alcohol free, because it's not the coping mechanism that you use to turn off a life that maybe isn't the life on your terms. And, you know, so many of us believe that that's not possible to live those kinds of lives. And, you know, that's exactly what I believe. I did not believe I could be an entrepreneur. I didn't believe I could write books. I didn't believe, you know, I believed I had an identity and a role that was fixed by society, and I better follow that and not go outside my little boundaries, you know? And, you know, I'm here to tell you that the wildest fulfillment, the wildest dreams, like, you only have those dreams, and you have them. They're so unique to you, and other people don't have the same ones that you do, because you're meant to fulfill them, and you have everything you need inside of you to fulfill them. Yeah. And so when you hear that little voice inside you, you know, wanting more and telling you you're made for more, like, that is the wisest voice that you need to listen to. And so again, it's not about the behavior change. I can't drink, I shouldn't drink. It's, does drinking allow me to access that incredible life? And if it doesn't, could I be curious enough to experiment with other ways that maybe would lead me there?
Amen. And speaking of that, it's become so much easier, I would say, in the past year and a half to 2 years, to be a sober, curious person, or even if you are already quote unquote sober or alcohol free, to really get more curious in that lifestyle. And I know that someone who's been alcohol free for well over a decade, I didn't have as many options with whether it's books and podcasts and websites and Instagrams or beverages themselves. And we've got just a few minutes left. So I want to talk beverages. And I see Kevin has a fun beer right now. Tell us your top 3 beverage brands that people can check out.
Is this like non-alcoholic beer, spirit type things, or anything?
It could be coffee, it could be water, but it helps if it's something, maybe it's something that's featured on this festival, or whatever you like. What do you do? What's Kevin like?
My favorite beer, Groovy Stout.
Groovy Stout. I've got.
Yeah, I was a dark beer drinker, so
okay.
And any dark beer, NA beer I've had hasn't been that great. I know some people have been recommending more lately, but that's number 1 on my list. I like Ritual, the whiskey alternative.
Okay.
That's definitely high up there. And coffee is my number 1 drink.
I love coffee.
Yeah.
Which I would. No, go ahead. Sorry.
The only other beer that I have that I really recommend is the Athletic Brewing. I think it's called the Upside Dawn is my favorite, but
okay. And I'm going to repost on my feed what everyone's favorite beverages are, so that you can follow the beverages. I'm going to go to Heather. What are some of your faves?
Yes, so I absolutely echo everything that Kevin said. I love Athletic Brewing. I love Groovy. Somebody's asking about a non-alcoholic gin. I love Seedlip Garden. I love this Lagunitas Happy Refresher. I love coffee too. And just a final remark, since I know we're out of time, is I can't mention a mindful drinking festival without saying meditation changed my life. But you can't be bad at it. 5 minutes a day. I use Insight Timer. I did it when I was drinking, and that really planted the seed for my future.
As you said before, you can't be mindful about drinking alcohol while you're still drinking alcohol. So
I think take a break. Take a break from alcohol. Stop. As long as it's in your system, it's still messing with your mind. So you don't have to quit forever, but take a break. 7 days, 21 days, and then that's how you be mindful. See how you feel. Be a witness to yourself, not a judge. That Absolutely. Is what meditation has taught me.
And Karolina, before we wrap up, what are a couple of beverages that you love to sip on now?
Yes, and I just want to echo Heather too, and just say like what are you waiting for? Honestly, 10 days will go by regardless, you know what I mean? And 10, 20, 30 days later, no one looks back and says, gee, I really wish I was drinking during those last 30 days. Like, just try it. And even if you only get 3 or 4 under your belt, like that's progress. Like Kevin wouldn't be here today if he didn't so-called fail his other breaks. Like those were stepping stones to grow his mind and his synapses in new ways and new patterns. So you have nothing to lose but to just try it. And even like a 5-day break, I have a free 5-day course. Like that's literally just 5 days, so, everyone can dip a toe in and just explore. But right now I am loving Surreal Brewing. And I just got this brand new, you guys. It's a milkshake IPA. So if anyone's from like a beer city, a craft beer kind of city, I'm in San Diego. It's like the craft beer capital of the world. I was always going to beer tastings, and there are always these like fancy blends, fancy flavors, and then like you never want to feel like you're missing out. So don't. Try all the alternatives. This is like incredible. It's vanilla-y, it's citrusy, it's amazing. It's like birthday cake beer. Oh my gosh, I love it. Surreal has a few others that are just, I love. They're my favorite. Like they have a red IPA, they have a porter that's really good. And then another favorite thing of mine is to literally just go to like a health food store and just peruse like what they have going on in their drink section. Like
I did that today at Beverages.
Yeah, it's from the kombuchas, the like Italian sodas, the tonic, the different like adaptogen blends that they have nowadays, the different, like it's so fun. There's millions of new drinks on the market. And as this festival is highlighting, like there's so many out there. There's more than we can keep up with to try. Like there's hundreds and hundreds of different kind of alternative drinks. Alcohol is only one of them. So find something else you love to drink. Substitution is the biggest lever of behavior change. Find something you love to drink and drink it and have fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll just say for me, before we head off, I love coffee, and Liars is one of the beverages that is featured in this festival. They have a coffee original non-alcoholic spirit, and I mix it with some seltzer, and I recently got some espresso infused maple syrup, which I'm using as like a simple syrup, and it's like the ultimate coffee beverage. And I can also put in a little bit of, like, if I want just a bit of a tartness, like Element Shrub is one of my favorites. And we're off, I think. Oh gosh, no, sorry, something just popped up on my computer. But that being said, follow Zero Proof Nation. Check out all of the other amazing beverages that are being featured in the festival. And if anyone has any other questions for us, please reach out to us on Instagram. As you could see earlier what our Instagram handles were, but we would just love to stay in touch with you. And I forgot how we wrap up. I think that's it.
This was so fun. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
I hope you guys find some other awesome sessions to hit, and we'd love to know what your favorite beverages are.
Cheers.
Cheers. I got my booze free in DC Mason jar, peeps. Yes. All right.